How did the talks go? What can you report in terms of progress towards a more fulsome agreement?
Good morning. Indeed, yesterday we had our first meeting with U.S. Trade Representative Catherine Tai, and we discussed basically two sets of issues. One is our cooperation, which is like international cooperation in a multilateral context, including the questions related to the reform of World Trade Organization, and another indeed is resolving our bilateral trade disputes, including Airbus-Boeing dispute and steel and aluminium tariffs. On Airbus-Boeing, as you know, we already have first positive steps with a suspension of tariffs, so we agreed that we will now work very intensively to use the time of tariff suspension indeed to put this long-standing dispute behind us.
So how far are we away from a more fulsome trade agreement between the EU and the United States now?
Well, certainly one can see that there are lots of positive openings, and we had a very good discussion yesterday, and we agreed to cooperate on a number of areas, including, for example, on issues like trade and climate initiative, reform of the WTO, challenges stemming from the relations with China, trade and technology, just to mention some areas. So all those areas we are going to advance, I would say, quite intensively the cooperation over the next coming weeks and months.
Commissioner, let me ask you about one of the big trade issues, though, in Europe and the angst over vaccine that is meant to be bound from the Netherlands to the UK. Boris Johnson announcing diplomatic talks to try to ward off any crisis. But there is a view that there's a very split decision in Europe as to whether that vaccine should make it to the UK. How careful does Europe need to be about vaccine nationalism at this stage?
Well, first of all, I would like to underline that EU is one of the largest, if not the largest, vaccine exporter in the world. So as regards that's the last week's data, we have exported since the introduction of export authorization system more than 41 million vaccines internationally, including around 10 million vaccines to the UK, whereas the flows of vaccines in the opposite direction are, so to say, very limited, if not non-existent. So from that point of view, we think it's highly unfair to accuse the EU, which is one of the largest vaccine exporters, in vaccine nationalism. And our export authorization system, the aims of the system are very clear: to ensure that EU supplies and contracts which companies need to honor vis-à-vis EU are not falling behind.
I understand the pressures when you've got many countries across Europe now looking at the prospect of a third wave, some having to take even stronger measures around lockdowns in particular. But that said, Europe's tried to take a stand on many issues and tried to demonstrate that it is a global citizen. Doesn't the approach around vaccines destroy some of the credibility that Europe has built up in recent years?
Well, as I already outlined, Europe is and continues to be one of the biggest vaccine exporter in the world, and exporting way more than any other advanced economy at current stage. So from that point of view, EU definitely is continuing to be a responsible global citizen.
And yet, Commissioner Dombrovskis, and very good to see you today, by the way, sir, as well, there have been huge criticisms about the way that countries have given the European Commission authority in order to roll out the vaccine, in order to purchase the vaccine, to invest in vaccines. Do you admit now that there have been enormous mistakes made, possibly ineptitude at the highest levels of the Commission?
Well, first of all, as regards rollout of vaccination, what is important right now is that companies are actually honoring their contracts, because the problem we are facing, especially with one company, that it's not honoring the contracts, that the vaccine supplies are way behind what has been agreed in our contract, and this is an issue which needs to be addressed, and we are currently working on this.